Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the HJC Podcast. I'm Ryan, your blog admin, your Saturday writer, whatever you want to call me. Joining me today is one of our newest writers, Justin, who writes on Thursday. How's it going, Justin?
Not too bad. Good to be here.
And also joining us is former Thursday writer and general HJC handyman, Brendan. How's it going, Brendan?
It's good. It's going good, Ryan. How are you?
Awesome. Good here. We're going to cover a few topics today. We got a couple mailbag questions, so that's good. We're going to play a new game, and if it works out, it'll become a regular feature on the podcast. So let's get right into it. And a lot of the talk here in Toronto has been circling around Austin Matthews, and it's hard to wade through all the BS and all the fluff and get to the real story around the league. So with that in mind, I thought we should talk about how the top 5 in scoring at the end of the year will look like. And I think you guys are both Penguins fans, aren't you?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I'm surrounded by Penguins fans. This should be fun. Phil Kessel should not appear on this list. That's just a rule. Anyways,
sleeper pick.
top 5 in scoring. Brendan, how do you see? Give us 5 players that you see finishing at the top of the scoring race this year.
Oh boy, I have a list of like 7 or 8 that I thought could maybe be there.
I want 5.
Okay. Let's see. I have Crosby, McJesus. Ben, I'm gonna say Ovechkin,
that sounds like
maybe.
a good McDonald's burger. The McJesus comes with holy water. All right, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Anyways, Sid McJesus, Ben. I'll throw in Kucherov as kind of like a sleeper pick, even though he did pretty good last year, I think.
Yeah.
And just for the hell of it, Matthews.
Good choice. Justin,
Why not?
Well, this isn't going to be very interesting because I actually have the same list. I did some thinking of whether to put in Kane in there as well, but I think give it to some of the younger guys, shake it up a bit, throw Kucherov in there and Matthews as well. But I think McDavid and Crosby are pretty much staples that you're going to get, and then the other guys will all be top 7, I would say for sure. But filling out the top 5 is always a triple spot.
If you had to go out on a limb, choose number 1 and number 5 from your list.
Number one, I'd say McDavid. I think just looking at even the goal he scored against Chicago yesterday, or the assist, I should say. He's just a machine. He's going to be up there for years. I mean, McDavid Crosby debate's still going on, but I think McDavid's about to pass him, as much as it hurts me to say as a Penguins fan. And then number 5, I'd say let's go Matthews. I think he'll get in there, but I don't think he'll break into the elite 3 just yet.
Okay, Brendan, who do you have at number 1 and number 5?
Partly biased and partly just to have something different, Crosby. And at number 5, I'm going to say Ben.
Okay. See, I actually think Crosby's going to finish number 1 this year. I think he's motivated by the fact that everyone is ready to anoint McDavid as the new top guy. And Crosby's ready. It might only be for 1 season, but he's ready to hold off those rumors and hold off those people saying that. So I think he's going to have a huge year. I love Kucherov, so I actually see Kucherov as number 3. I'll play the homer card, and I'll put Matthews at number 4. And then who else is going to have a good year? St. Louis is going to have a good year, so I'll put Tarasenko at number 5. So
I like it.
That'll be my top 5. On the HJC Writers chat this week, Sunday writer Steve brought up a fantastic question. If you were sober, completely sober, nothing in your system, what NHL mascot would you take on in a fight? And my answer was the cat thing that the Edmonton Oilers have. That thing just looks scary. There's no chance I'd win in any fight in the history of ever. But Justin, what mascot would you take on completely sober?
Yeah. For me, I kind of have a bit of a backstory for this one. I've had some time to put some thought into it, but I went to I'm from Texas, so I went to the 07 All-Star game down in Dallas, and I was just enjoying myself on the concourse, looking around, and suddenly I noticed kind of a shadow appear behind me, and I kind of look back right into the Thrashers mascot's mouth. So I think I'd like to kind of get my 2 cents in and kind of throw something back at him. So that would be where I'd be headed in that mindset for sure.
I wonder where that costume is sitting right now. Some dingy closet.
Oh yeah, I'll find the guy and we'll work it out. But we'll get there someday.
Brendan, who would you take on?
I'm not entirely sure. I would say the Flyers mascot if they had one. So I'm gonna have to go with Slapshot, the Capitals mascot, just out of rivalry.
Rivalry. Now, in the fight, is the goal to knock off the mascot head or just take the mascot down? Because for me, I'd probably want to knock off that big giant helmet and expose it to everyone in the arena, and then I'd probably run after that. But
why not take off the mask and then take out the mascot inside?
There you go.
Oh,
Two
no,
birds, one stone.
I can't win any fight. So
I have a benefit. If I am fighting the Capitals mascot in any sort of second round, I know I'm going to
win. There you go.
Fantastic. Okay, one of our earlier questions when we were thinking about topics for the podcast, I was thinking about goalie masks. And being a traditionalist, I enjoy the simpler masks from the 90s. And not to say that the current masks aren't fantastic, but I just enjoy 90s masks. How about you guys? You guys are younger than me. What masks are your favorites? Current ones or kind of older styles, Brendan?
Now, whenever it comes to just design in general, I tend to be into simplicity, and I tend to like simple designs. So I'm going to have to say the 90s ones. Don't get me wrong, there are some great modern masks, like Flurry's last year. I have a soft spot for that one, obviously. But I'm a big fan of simple design, so the 90s ones I'm a big fan of.
Was that his Tom Barrasso replica? Didn't he?
No, the one where he like honored all of his teammates by putting a lot of the
Right. Was it last year where he had the Barrasso replica? Didn't he have one? Oh no, it was 2 years ago when the black jersey was the alternate.
Right.
At the time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. And Justin, old masks, new masks?
I would say, gun to my head, first thought was modern masks. I really like what some of the people are doing with the more creative stuff and what Vegas did this year with having the fans design Pickard's mask that they never actually got to see in game. But that's a whole nother issue. But
he's using it for the Marlies right now.
Exactly. There you go. Putting some thought into it, I really realized that the 90s mask, some of the cooler stuff with that was something I really liked when I was younger, is the fact that you have players who really kept their design elements across teams. You had Cujo with his Cujo mask across the board. You had Belfour with his eagle and all the different colors. And then kind of pulling into the early 2000s, you have Hedberg throwing his moose on every team, dressing him as a devil and all kinds of other stuff. So I think we've lost a bit of that with players kind of designing it for the individual teams, so you don't really have that continuous thing. So I think that's something that we definitely miss out on, but I really like the creativity that we see in modern times.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite masks is Felix Potvin. Always enjoyed his design. And he carried it from Leafs, Islanders, Kings, Canucks, all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I would have to say Ed Belfour's mask is probably the most iconic goalie mask of the modern era. You can't compare it to the old masks of the 70s and the 80s, but that one was top-notch. And I actually believe that the man who designed that recently passed away in the past couple of weeks, actually. So that was kind of big news. I don't want to get the guy's name wrong, so I don't know his name off the top of my head. I won't do that. We're actually going to play a game here, and if this goes well, we will include it going forward. We're going to call this game Fake or Authentic, and we're going to go through several teams here and their starts, both bad and good. And we're going to say, is this the team that we see? Are they authentic? Or is it just a mirage? Are they going to improve or get worse? Are they fake? And let's start off with my Toronto Maple Leafs, as of this recording, sitting at 6-1. Justin, are they fake or are they authentic?
I'd say authentic. I mean, I'd say maybe more in the realms of a premier jersey rather than authentic jersey, if we want to put it in those terms. But I think they're not obviously a 6-1-0 team for the rest of the season, but I think with the offense that they have, they're going to be a lot like Pittsburgh was last year and really score first and have the back end do whatever they need to. They're not going to be lights out. They're not going to hold you to 2 goals every game, but if they can put up 5-6 goals, they're going to have no issue keeping that up in my mind.
Yeah, they certainly have a problem keeping pucks out of their own net, but they do outscore their mistakes. Brendan, Leafs 6-1, are they fake or authentic?
I'd say authentic, and Justin, you said that the Leafs aren't a 6-1-0 team all year. I would say they're better because if my math was correct, that's only on pace for 70 points.
Sure, there you go.
That's because one loss in 7 games accounts for a lot more than it would in like 12, but despite that, that's only on pace for 70 points if my math was correct. So I would say they're better than a 6-1-0 pace.
All right, well, we'll see. I'd love to say it's authentic, but it's the Leafs. And being a Leafs fan for 25 years or more, I can't actually say that they're going to be authentic, though I don't feel like this is a fake record. We'll move on to a team doing just as well, both offensively and just as poorly defensively. Same record as of this recording. The New Jersey Devils, also at 6-1. And for me, this might be a little fake because they just haven't proven it over a long period of time. Brendan, New Jersey, fake or authentic?
Now, if you've listened to some of the other podcasts, you've heard me say I'm not the best analyst. I don't really have the time to follow every game and so on. So I might not be very correct on this, but the Devils don't look to have a great team on paper. So in a way, this seems kind of fake to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course they have some good players, Taylor Hall, so on, but they're not really the type of team I could imagine to go on this kind of pace for the rest. Well, technically, if it's a 70-point pace, maybe. But, I don't really know if I imagine them having such a great season.
Yeah, how about you, Justin? Fake or authentic?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think in the division they're in, there's no way they keep this up going forward. I mean, it's nice to see the young players like Heischer and Butcher have this impact early on, but I think it's just that they're young players and they're hungry out of the gate. But I think throw that over the course of the 82-game season, and this team is just not proven enough to hold that up over the course of the entire regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how they do. They may be able to keep a winning pace up until Christmas, but the games tend to get more intense and higher skill level after Christmas. So we'll see if they can keep that up and if they can make the playoffs this year. We'll move down to a team, the Edmonton Oilers, sitting at 2-4. They were at 1-4 until they beat Chicago on Thursday. Is this fake or is this authentic, Brendan?
I would have to say fake. With the kind of players they have, unless they get really riddled by injuries and unless Draisaitl really is out for a long time and so on, I'm not sure I can believe them at a below 500, especially, let alone missing the playoffs.
Justin, fake or authentic?
I would say this is a fake start. They're a lot better team than they're playing at. They've got a much better goaltender than they're showing right now. Cam Talbot has just crawled out of the gate this year, and I think once you get him back to maybe not as good as form as he was in last year, but at least more Cam Talbot-esque form, and once you get Draisaitl back, I think they're a team that'll really contend to not only be a decent team, but to also be a Pacific Division champion if everything goes well.
Yeah, they definitely can show their potential. I think for them, they need to get to a 500 record by the time we get to the end of October here, so that gives them 10 days. If they're not, though, if they're still in the position where they are by the end of October, it could be a struggle for them all year. Not to say they won't make the playoffs, but it could be a struggle just to get in. So I would lean more towards fake on this start, but, they're still a young team. Can't forget that. They only made the playoffs for the first time last year. But the same could be said for Toronto as well and New Jersey as well. So we'll see how that goes. Fake or authentic, the Arizona Coyotes starting at 0-6-1. There was some talk in the offseason that they had shored up their goaltending, shored up their defensive end, and maybe they would make a push. But as far as we're going right now, it doesn't look like it. Justin, is this a fake start or an authentic start for the Arizona Coyotes?
For me, I'm a fan of a lot of the Coyotes players, so I want to say fake, but just looking at their roster up and down, it's hard to say that they'll make a huge turnaround. I think they'll be better than they are currently, but I don't think they'll be any kind of a playoff contender, really push for anything beyond just a decent enough season to give them hope for their future when players grow and get better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And as far as I said, Edmonton, they got to be back at 500 by the end of October. Arizona is now in a situation where they're got to look at getting to 500 by the end of November, which puts them behind the ball by a whole month in relation to the Edmonton Oilers. Brendan, Arizona 0-6-1, fake or authentic?
If we're going to go on the scale that Justin mentioned earlier, I'd say Reebok from here because the Coyotes aren't a great team, aren't exactly a great team on paper, but I think they made some improvements to their roster over the offseason. So this terrible of a start would kind of surprise me. Well, not this terrible of a start, but this terrible of a pace, I should say, would kind of surprise me if they keep that up. So I wouldn't really expect them to be bottom dwellers, but I wouldn't really expect them to be maybe not even close to playoff contending, maybe just kind of in the middle of that bottom pack.
Right. And you got to wonder, they have enough young players there. You got to wonder when it starts turning around. You look at New Jersey, you look at Toronto, they've turned it around in 2 or 3 years. I mean, how long have we been saying Arizona has good young players? At some point, it has to turn around. So to me, this looks like an authentic start. I would say this is the team that they are, but we'll see how it goes. Of course, this all has to play out over another 8 or 9 months. Los Angeles just lost Jeff Carter for a couple months, but they've started at 5-0-1. Is this a fake or authentic start, Brendan?
I don't know much about the Kings, but I'm going to say somewhat fake. Probably, again, Reebok Premier, just because I don't think they're that great of a team. Again, on paper, I don't know much about the team at all and how their system works and all that. So I could be wrong on that. But on paper, they don't look like the greatest team. But again, they don't look like a basement dweller or anything.
This could be a situation where Edmonton goes up and LA goes down. And they end up, this is where it levels out and they show more of like they were last year rather than they are for the first 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks of this season. Justin, Los Angeles, fake or authentic?
I say this is a very fake start. I think LA got stuck in the Stanley Cup hangover for a while, and just contending with Chicago for the top spot in the West for those years has really left them high and dry at this point. They've got a whole lot of age and not a heck of a lot of youth, and we love seeing young players get older. It's not so great on the opposite end of things where you have old players getting older, and I think this is the first year of a long downfall for them.
All right, moving further east, Vegas starting at 5-1 to start the season. We'll see. Might be pretty obvious where this is going. Can Vegas make the playoffs? Is this a fake or authentic start, Justin?
I'm going to have to say fake again. I think they remind me a lot of Team Europe for anyone who watched the World Cup of Hockey last year. They're a group that obviously has no experience together. And I think with the whole Vegas Strong movement, they kind of have that common cause. I think is really driving them. They have something to play for beyond just saying, hey, we're not a garbage expansion team, we're a team, but they're also playing for a city. So I think it's a little bit of that excitement, and everyone's amped up getting out of the gate. But I think as the season rolls on and other places and their teams start to kind of gel together and find that chemistry they've had in the past, Vegas is gonna struggle to be at that same level with that reliability and that consistency.
Brendan, what are your thoughts on Vegas?
I'm going to have to agree with Justin. It's a fake start. I mean, again, they have a few good players, but they're not really that stacked of a team. And they do have that kind of Vegas strong cause to work towards. So that's definitely, I'm sure, a reason why they're able to jump out of the gate to so much success. But as much as I would actually enjoy seeing them make the playoffs in the first year, just because I think it would be pretty entertaining, and to see Fleury in the playoffs again, because as we all know,
for sure,
our Pens fans love Fleury. I don't think it's going to work out that well for them.
Right.
At least not this year.
Right. I'd have to say I would lean to more fake for the start, but I would think after watching them for a few games, I think they're going to be able to keep up this pace again until Christmas, when the pace of the game starts to speed up and their skill or their lack of skill is going to catch up with them, and then they'll start leveling off. But just based on this start alone, I don't think they're going to be last in the league. I think they, with a month to go in the season, maybe they still might be hope in Las Vegas for this team making the playoffs. I don't think they will, but they'll be able to sell hope to their fans. We'll do 2 more teams here. This really brings a smile to my face. Montreal Canadiens, 5-1 as of this recording. Is this a fake start or an authentic start? I'm saying authentic right off the bat. This team stinks except for Carey Price. But Justin, Montreal, fake or authentic?
I'll have to say fake, just for the Carey Price factor alone. I think he's too good of a goaltender to let this team fall that hard. I mean, they're not a great team by any means, but I think they're good enough to be a respectable enough team with Carey Price as their backstopper. I don't really see them as a cup contender at all. I'm not even sure if they're a playoff team with the East the way it is now, but I see them as a bubble playoff team rather than the basement dweller they're looking like right now.
Brendan, what do you see in Montreal, fake or authentic?
Justin took the words right out of my mouth. Pretty much exactly what I was going to end up saying.
All right. Well,
they don't look like a great team, but they don't look like trash either.
I think their forwards are terrible. I think there's just constantly turmoil there. They don't help themselves by hiring a coach that has to speak English and French. I completely understand why they do it, but I don't think they help themselves there. They're too stuck on that they need French culture there. I get it, and I'm not trying to disrespect any Canadiens fans in that manner, but I think they really handcuff their team, and I think they're in a tough spot. I don't see them making the playoffs. And another team that I see in a similar spot, the New York Rangers, 1-5-2. Is this fake or is this authentic, Brendan?
Under my notes for the podcast, I have the Rangers in the same category as the Canadiens. I mean, their roster doesn't look so bad that I'd imagine them as a basement dweller, but it doesn't look good enough that I'd imagine them as like a cup contender either.
Justin, the Rangers?
Yeah, for me, the Rangers are the kings of the East, and I say that not in their good way, but they're the Los Angeles Kings of the East, where they've really hit that cup hangover where they pushed for it for so long, and they're on the back end of it, and they really don't have a lot to replace their aging old guys. Even Lundqvist is starting to slow down, and when you have a goalie like that who's been kind of the tip top of your team for so long, and he starts to falter and the pieces are slowly falling apart there. So I think this is more what we can expect for the Rangers this year and going forward as well.
It does look like it's coming unraveled in New York there. Our Friday writer TC won't be happy to hear that. In fact, he lost a bet and had to post about it on Friday's post. So go check that out if you haven't read it yet. But I see the Rangers heading downhill. Lundqvist always obviously getting older, and they just don't have that superstar up front, and it doesn't look like someone's coming. They have a lot of good stars. They don't have the superstar, which it seems that you're starting to need in this league. That was Fake or Authentic. Went pretty well, so we might bring it back next week. We'll see how it goes. Now let's go to a regular feature, the HJC Mailbag. Mailbag. All right. We have 2 questions in the mailbag. First one comes from Alan from Monday's Post, and he writes, will the Vegas Golden Knights benefit the Arizona Coyotes, or will it hurt the Arizona hockey market down the road? He cites an example of fans from Arizona going to Vegas games more than their own games. I'll start on this one. Don't think 5 guys piling into a van going down to Vegas is going to really hurt Arizona that much. Not a lot of people are going to that game or going to their games. So even if you stuffed all those people in a lot of buses and sent them down to Vegas constantly, it would hurt Arizona hockey or the Arizona Coyotes. But really, it's not making a dent in the scheme of the National Hockey League. That team can do no right, and they will be fine because they are protected by the magical globe of protectiveness, and they will never go anywhere. And if you ask the NHL, everything's fine in Arizona. Don't look over there. It's fine. Nothing to see over there. Justin, do you think hockey in Vegas is going to hurt Arizona, or just thoughts on Arizona hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can hurt. I mean, I think short term it's gonna boost it a little bit because they're playing a lot on this kind of desert hockey rivalry, so they're trying to kind of fabricate their own rivalry out of the gates there. I think long term it's really going to have no effect at all. I think once the NHL pulls into 32 teams, which only makes sense, I think you'll have a expansion to expansion team rivalry, and the kind of Vegas-Arizona pull will fade away there. And I think, as you said, it's not like you're pulling 15,000 fans out of the Arizona arena. You're pulling maybe a couple guys of the few that are there already. So it's a blip on the radar as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Brendan, does Vegas have any effect on Arizona hockey?
Now, I had a few things. I think it does depend on whether the Knights and the Coyotes actually do end up forming a rivalry. If they do, then I think that could definitely get more fans to games, like more people who are maybe a little bit interested in hockey. It might drive them to games. And along with that, how good do the teams do? I mean, it's not looking great for either of them right now, but let's say 2 or 3 years, do things look up for them? If they have an intense rivalry with 2 good teams, I think that could be driving some fans to both arenas.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I think it's really dependent.
The most powerful marketing ploy is winning. It's incredible how people will show up when you start winning. And if Arizona could ever start winning, then maybe some people actually might go to the games. But we'll see how that goes. Our second question comes from our Monday writer, Sean. And he wants to know, with the Steve Mason signing being terrible for the Jets so far, what signing has your favorite team made that made you facepalm? And have they ever surprised you for the better? All right, you guys are both Penguins fans, so Justin, I'll let you have at this first. Maybe a bad signing by the Penguins or trade even.
Yeah, I actually did some thought on this, and I thought rather than overloading everyone with Penn stuff, I'd talk about my second team, my more hometown team down in Dallas. So
Okay.
when I was reached with this question, I heard it phrased as sign or trade and or both. So I kind of thought of one for each. Signing in recent memory, the thing that really sticks out to me, I mean, the Stars have done a good job lately, so there's not too much to complain about. But the thing that really stuck out to me is Alex Hemsky. These past 3 years, signed him for $12 million across the 3 for four per for a guy we really didn't play outside of the second or third line the entire time. Sure, he had some chemistry with Spezza, but he never stuck out. Which really, when you're paying $4 million for a guy on the free agent market, you're hoping you're getting some shininess day in and day out.
Yeah, you're looking for at least 15 to 20 goals there a season.
Yeah, exactly, something. But and then as far as trades go, this one is a good and a bad one for me. As a Pens fan, I love it. As a Stars fan, not so much. But I would say the Goligoski deal a couple years back when you sent young James Neal and Matt Niskanen into Pittsburgh for Alex Goligoski. I think the Stars really dropped the ball on that one. Gave a young scorer who did great for Pittsburgh, did great for Nashville, and now is just breaking out like a gangbuster in Vegas. And Niskanen and Goligoski more or less is a wash. So I think you really gave up a lot more than you needed to in that trade from a Dallas standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that's why there's changeover in Dallas, right?
Definitely.
Brendan, terrible signing or terrible trade by the Penguins?
I'll go with both too. Now, I'm not too familiar with Matt Hunwick yet, but whenever we signed him, from what I heard, he's not exactly the greatest player. I guess we'll have to see how he plays, but especially signing him to 3 years, if this doesn't work out, it's probably going to end up as a mistake. I actually don't know why, but I didn't look up the price that we signed him for.
Who's Hunwick playing with? Because he was here in Toronto for the last couple of years.
He's third pair.
He's on the third pair.
Cole? Is it Cole? What do we have? Letang?
Now that Cole's back.
So he's not with Schultz or Letang, right?
I actually don't remember. I just watched the game. I don't remember.
Okay, if anybody listening knows who Matt Hunwick is paired with, please leave a comment or email us, because when he was with Toronto, he did not fantastic. He was quite suitable when he was with a rushing defenseman. He played with Morgan Riley here. So I'm just wondering if he would be well paired with Letang or Schultz in Pittsburgh. Sorry, carry on, Brendan.
Let's move on to the trade.
Yeah.
I think Justin left this one for me by going to the Stars. Ryan Reeves. I mean, the day that this happened, I was just in disbelief. I could not understand why, after 2 straight Stanley Cups, back-to-back cups, winning it based off of speed and skill, why, for the love of God, Jim Rutherford would want to trade for an enforcer and somebody to protect our players when, in reality, it doesn't work. He goes in the box and they beat up our players while he's in the box. He just costs penalties. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's entertaining to watch sometimes, and I really would like him to prove me wrong on the fact that this was a bad trade. But especially whenever we give up a player that I constantly see, well, technically a draft pick, that I constantly see Blues fans on Twitter basically acting like he's Jesus over. It's not a great feeling.
Yeah. I think the frustrating thing too is the Penguins' kind of sticking point these past 2 years is we're winning a different way. We're showing you can win with all skill and you don't need these bruisers anymore. And then right after they go back to back, they say, you know what, maybe we want to switch things up and try and win a different way. That's honestly the only logic I can put behind it, is they just decided their system wasn't fun to play with anymore, so they wanted to throw another wrinkle in the mix. But
yeah,
not happy on that end.
Well,
doesn't help when Reeves hasn't even been getting much ice time the past few games. I think he got more this past game that just happened earlier tonight.
3 or 4 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Weren't you Penguins fans a couple weeks ago going nuts on the HJC chat because he scored a couple goals or something?
He scored a goal and had 2 fights in a game, and Penn's Twitter just went insane. And
yeah, like I said, entertaining to watch sometimes, but even then, I wasn't exactly thrilled because it just seemed like some needless penalties to me. Kind of fun to watch, but still pretty needless penalties. I'd rather see goals and wins than fights.
All right, good stuff. And I'll go from the Toronto perspective, obviously. There's tons of bad trades and signings to go through the years, but I pinpointed one with the help of Monday's writer, Sean. And this one kind of started off the whole era of the Leafs being terrible before they've kind of turned it around. And that was in 2005, I think it was. And they traded their goaltending prospect to the Boston Bruins for Calder Trophy winner Andrew Raycroft. Raycroft did play a lot of games that year for the Leafs, and he actually tied the franchise record for goalie wins in a season. And he was gone 2 years later. But the player that the Leafs traded to the Bruins in that trade was Tuukka Rask. And the Leafs had two goaltending prospects at the time, Tuukka Rask and a guy named Justin Pogge, who had a great World Championships just before that. And they chose Justin Pogge, and obviously we know how well that went. And so the Leafs suffered for about 10 or 11 years with absolutely terrible goaltending. And it looks like they're back on track now. But there's lots of bad signings to choose from the Leafs. But that's the one I picked because it started, as far as I'm concerned, their downturn. Anyways, that's all the time we have for this week. Justin, Brendan, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Saturday with episode 4 of the HJC podcast. If you want to be notified when the HJC podcasts go up, hit the subscribe button. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you want to comment on anything that we talked about in this episode, be sure to leave it in the comments either on the YouTube channel or on hockeyjerseyconcepts.com. Thanks for allowing us into your ears. Goodbye, everybody.